How does a spark that feels like forever turn into a rejection that haunts you for years? That's the question I wrestle with at 34, sitting in my Chicago apartment, the city's hum outside my window, a constant reminder of the life I thought I'd build with Trevor. I'm Sabrina, a client services manager, once hopeful I'd found my soulmate, only to lose him after 13 dates because I pushed for a label he wasn't ready to give. 3 years ago, I met Trevor on a dating app where profiles showed depth, not just gym selfies. He was 32 in logistics, with a wit and warmth that stood out. Our first date at a cozy downtown cafe ignited a connection I hadn't felt in ages. But my decision to withhold intimacy until he called me his girlfriend backfired, leaving me blocked, alone, and questioning everything. The sting of his new life, engaged, happy, building what I dreamed of, still burns, a lesson in love and timing gone wrong. It started with that first date, the cafe's roasted coffee scent wrapping around us as we talked for hours. No awkward silences, just easy laughter and stories. Trevor asked real questions about my work in client services, remembered details from our app chats, and listened like he cared, not just waiting to talk about himself. The conversation flowed. Family quirks, travel dreams, random childhood memories, until the staff started stacking chairs around us. When he walked me to my car, the city's evening buzz alive, his first kiss was perfect, not pushy, but electric, leaving me wanting more. I felt a spark I hadn't in years, a sense he was different from the immature guys I'd dated. He texted the next day, no games, saying he had a great time and wanted to see me again, his honesty refreshing in a world of calculated waits. For our second date, he suggested cooking at his place, which made me nervous, usually a code for rushing things. But his apartment was clean, organized, a far cry from the bachelor pads I'd seen. He cooked a real meal, pasta with homemade sauce, the kitchen warm with garlic and herbs, not just reheated takeout. We talked for hours, hands brushing as we chopped vegetables, the chemistry undeniable. Against my usual rule of waiting, we ended up sleeping together that night. It felt natural, not pressured, his attentiveness making me feel safe, desired. The next morning, we sat on his balcony with coffee, the city's skyline glinting, talking about weekend plans like we'd been together forever. He didn't push me out or turn distant, instead finding excuses to touch my hand, brush hair from my face, saying he couldn't wait to see me again. Over 6 weeks, we fell into a rhythm, 2 or 3 dates a week, hiking trails, concerts, new restaurants, his thoughtfulness shining. He remembered my love for live music, surprising me with tickets to indie bands, the venues buzzing with energy as we danced. We developed inside jokes, like him insisting I taste his cooking, even though he was the better chef. On his couch, curled up watching movies, he'd play with my hair, making me feel cherished. Our physical connection deepened, a natural rhythm I'd never had before, his generosity making me comfortable being vulnerable. But we never defined our relationship, and that undefined space started to gnaw at me, a crack in the foundation I'd thought was solid. My additions layered the early joy. A coworker's engagement ring, flashed at the office, sparked my longing for commitment, her happiness a mirror to my uncertainty. Trevor's first text, saved on my phone, became a touchstone I reread, its warmth grounding me. Jessa, my friend, met him at a concert. He's a keeper, over wine, fueling my hope. The balcony morning included a neighbor's dog barking, Trevor laughing as we planned a hike, cementing his ease. These moments built my belief in us, but the lack of a label loomed, a shadow I couldn't ignore, setting the stage for a choice that would unravel everything I'd hoped to build with him. The spark from that first cafe date with Trevor grew into a flame that warmed every corner of my life, making me believe at 31 that I'd found something real, something lasting. I was a client services manager in Chicago, my days filled with client calls and the hum of office air conditioners, my nights now lit by Trevor's thoughtful gestures and the promise of a future together. Our first date's easy flow, hours of laughter over coffee, the city's buzz fading as we talked, had set a high bar, but Trevor kept surpassing it, weaving himself into my world with a natural ease that felt like destiny. Yet, the undefined nature of our relationship, despite our intimacy and closeness, began to stir unease. A quiet doubt that crept into my thoughts like the chill of Lake Michigan's breeze during our walks. I wanted him to see me as his partner, not just a date. But my fear of pushing too soon kept me silent, even as our connection deepened, setting the stage for a tension that would soon test everything we'd built. Our second date at his apartment, where the scent of garlic and homemade pasta sauce filled the air, had sealed our chemistry. We'd slept together that night, against my usual rule of waiting, but it felt right. His attentiveness, the way he made sure I was comfortable, erasing any sleaze. The next morning, on his balcony with coffee steaming in the crisp air, we talked about weekend plans, his hand brushing mine, his smile saying he wanted me there. He didn't rush me out or turn distant, instead kissing me goodbye with a promise to see me again soon. That ease carried us forward, our routine settling into 2 or 3 dates a week. Hiking trails where leaves crunched underfoot, concerts where music pulsed through crowded venues, restaurants with candlelit tables and the clink of wine glasses. Trevor remembered I loved live music, surprising me with tickets to indie bands I'd never heard of, their songs becoming our soundtrack as we danced in the dark. We developed silly rituals that made my heart ache with joy. He'd insist I taste whatever he was cooking, even though he was clearly the better chef, his laugh warm as I critiqued his pasta. Movie nights on his couch, the room cozy with the scent of popcorn, found me curled against him, his fingers absent-mindedly playing with my hair, making me feel safe, cherished. Our physical connection deepened, a natural rhythm that felt like nothing I'd known before. He was generous, attentive, focused on my happiness, making vulnerability easy for the first time. I could show up in sweats, no makeup, and he'd look at me like I was the only woman in the world, his eyes soft in the dim light of his apartment. Inside jokes bloomed, calling each other by goofy nicknames from a bad movie we'd laughed through, the memories sparking giggles over coffee. But the lack of a label started to gnaw at me. We acted like a couple, consistent dates, intimacy multiple times a week, shared plans, but never talked about exclusivity. My coworker's engagement ring, flashed proudly at the office coffee machine, sparked envy, her certainty a contrast to my undefined status. I'd catch myself overanalyzing Trevor's texts, searching for shifts in tone, wondering if he was less affectionate or slower to reply. When he mentioned female colleagues or got flirty looks from women at concerts, I'd smile outwardly, but burn inside, wanting everyone to know he was mine. Friends like Jessa asked about my boyfriend, and I'd stumble, saying we weren't official, their raised brows making me feel like a fling despite his actions. The uncertainty ate at me, each date a mix of joy and doubt, the city's skyline glinting outside his window, a reminder of the commitment I craved. I wanted to bring up exclusivity, but feared scaring him off. Past relationships had taught me rushing could ruin things, yet 2 months of giving him girlfriend-level effort, time, intimacy, emotional energy, without a title felt unfair. I'd lie awake in my apartment, the hum of traffic outside, wondering if he was dating others, his easy charm a magnet I'd seen in action. The tension built, a knot in my stomach during our dates, the clink of glasses at restaurants echoing my unease. I needed security, a sign he saw me as his future, not just a moment. My additions enriched the growing bond. Jessa, over wine at her place, called Trevor the real deal, her encouragement fueling my hope, the glass clinking as we toasted. Trevor left a playlist on my phone, songs from our concert nights, a touchstone I played to feel close. A coworker's story of a rushed relationship ending badly, shared in the office break room, made me cautious but restless. His balcony coffee mornings with city birds chirping became rituals I cherished, his laugh a promise I clung to. These threads deepened my longing, but the undefined space between us loomed, pushing me toward a decision that would test our connection and risk everything I'd come to love. The glow of my blossoming connection with Trevor was a beacon in my life at 31, a client services manager in Chicago whose days were filled with client calls and the hum of office air conditioners, but whose nights now sparkled with his thoughtful dates and easy laughter. Our routine of 2 to 3 dates a week, hiking trails where leaves crunched underfoot, concerts pulsing with music, cozy dinners with the clink of wine glasses, had built a bond that felt like destiny, his attentiveness making me feel cherished in ways I hadn't known before. Yet, the absence of a defined relationship, despite our intimacy and shared rituals, began to cast a shadow, like a cloud drifting over Lake Michigan during our walks. My coworker's engagement ring, glinting in the office break room, and friends' questions about my boyfriend stirred an unease that grew with each undefined moment, fueling insecurities that threatened to unravel the future I'd envisioned with Trevor. I wanted him to claim me as his, but fear of pushing too hard kept me silent, even as doubts crept in, setting the stage for a choice that would test the strength of our connection. Our dates were a tapestry of joy. Trevor surprising me with tickets to indie bands, the venues buzzing with energy as we danced, his arm around me warm against the night's chill. He remembered my love for live music, planning outings that became our soundtrack, songs echoing in my head as I drove home. At his apartment, cooking together, the scent of garlic and herbs filling the air, he'd insist I taste his dishes, laughing when I teased his seasoning, our hands brushing with electric sparks. Movie nights on his couch, popcorn's buttery scent mingling with his cologne, found me curled against him, his fingers playing with my hair, making me feel safe, like I'd found a home. Our physical connection was unmatched, a rhythm so natural it erased my past self-consciousness, his attentiveness making vulnerability feel like a gift. He'd look at me in sweats, no makeup, and call me beautiful, his eyes soft in the dim light, our inside jokes, goofy nicknames from a bad rom-com, sparking giggles over coffee. But the lack of a label gnawed at me. We acted like a couple. Consistent dates, intimacy multiple times a week, plans stretching into the future, but never talked exclusivity. My coworker's ring flashed proudly over coffee, sparked envy, her certainty a mirror to my uncertainty. I'd analyzed Trevor's texts, searching for shifts in tone, wondering if he was less affectionate or slower to reply. When he mentioned female colleagues or got flirty looks from women at concerts, I'd smile but burn inside, wanting to claim him publicly. Friends like Jessa asked about my boyfriend, and I'd fumble. We're not official. Their raised brows making me feel like a fling despite his devotion. The uncertainty ate at me, each date a mix of joy and doubt. The city's skyline glinting outside his window, a reminder of the commitment I craved. I'd lie awake in my apartment, traffic humming outside, wondering if he was seeing others, his charm a magnet I'd witnessed. Past relationships, rushed then ruined, made me cautious, but 2 months of giving girlfriend-level effort without a title felt unfair. I'd given him my time, body, emotions, yet had no security, like I was auditioning for a role he hadn't cast. At restaurants, the clink of glasses echoed my unease. During hikes, his casual mentions of friends' plans without me stung. I wanted to ask where we stood but feared scaring him off, the memory of a bad breakup haunting me. Jessa over wine at her place, urged, just talk to him. But doubt held me back, the knot in my stomach tightening with each undefined moment. My additions deepened the insecurity. Jess's story of a friend who lost a guy by rushing, shared over coffee, made me second-guess my timing. Trevor's playlist, left on my phone from a concert, became a nightly ritual, its songs bittersweet as I longed for clarity. A coworker's engagement party, filled with toasts and laughter, amplified my envy, their commitment a stark contrast to my limbo. During a lake walk, Trevor's casual mention of a female coworker's project, his laugh light, sparked a jealousy I hid behind a smile. These threads wove a growing tension, pushing me toward a breaking point. I needed him to call me his girlfriend, to lock in our future, but the fear of losing him battled my need for security, setting the stage for a conversation that would risk everything I'd come to cherish with him. The undefined space between Trevor and me, despite our electric connection, was like a crack in a foundation I'd thought was solid, growing wider with each date as I yearned for a commitment he hadn't offered. At 31, a client services manager in Chicago, my days were consumed with client calls and the hum of office air conditioners, but my nights glowed with Trevor's thoughtful gestures. Concerts, hikes, cozy dinners where the clink of wine glasses mingled with our laughter. 2 months of consistent dates, intimacy multiple times a week, and shared rituals had made us feel like a couple, yet we'd never discussed exclusivity, and the absence of a label gnawed at me like a persistent ache. My coworker's engagement ring, friends' questions about my boyfriend, and Trevor's casual mentions of female colleagues fueled a growing insecurity, pushing me to demand clarity. That decision, to withhold intimacy until he called me his girlfriend, felt empowering at the time. but it was a spark that would ignite the end of everything we'd built. Our connection had deepened beautifully. Trevor, a 32-year-old logistics coordinator, planned dates with care, surprising me with tickets to indie bands, the venues pulsing with music as we danced, his arm warm around me. At his apartment, cooking together, the scent of garlic and herbs filling the air, he'd insist I taste his dishes, laughing at my playful critiques. Movie nights on his couch, popcorn's buttery aroma blending with his cologne, found me curled against him, his fingers in my hair making me feel safe. Our physical chemistry was unmatched, a rhythm that erased my past self-consciousness, his attentiveness making vulnerability feel natural. He'd look at me in sweats, no makeup, and call me beautiful, his eyes soft in the dim light, our inside jokes, nicknames from a cheesy rom-com, sparking giggles over coffee. He'd talk about future plans, mentioning hikes or holiday trips, using we like it was second nature, and I'd glow, believing we were close to something official. But the lack of a label haunted me. My coworker's ring, flashed at the office coffee machine, sparked envy, her certainty a mirror to my uncertainty. Jess's questions about my boyfriend at wine nights, her glass clinking as she teased, left me fumbling. We're not official, her raised brows stinging. When Trevor mentioned female colleagues or got flirty looks at concerts, I'd smile but burn inside, wanting to claim him publicly. I'd lie awake in my apartment, the city's traffic humming outside, analyzing his texts for signs of fading affection, wondering if he was dating others, his charm a magnet I'd seen in action. 2 months of giving him my time, body, and emotions without a title felt like auditioning for a role he hadn't cast. The uncertainty a knot in my stomach during our dates, the clink of glasses at restaurants echoing my unease. After our 10th date, a cozy dinner at his place where candlelight danced on the table, I couldn't take it anymore. The wine's warmth loosened my resolve as we sat on his couch, the city skyline glinting outside. Trevor, we need to talk about where this is going, I said, heart pounding. I'm developing real feelings, and I want to know if we're on the same page about something serious. He looked surprised, his fork pausing midair. I really like you, Sabrina, he said, voice careful, and I see long-term potential, but 2 months isn't enough to decide on exclusivity. I've been burned rushing before. His words stung, a rejection I hadn't expected, like a door slamming on my hopes. I felt like I'd given him everything a girlfriend would: time, intimacy, energy. Yet he wasn't ready to claim me, making me question if he was keeping options open or just enjoying the benefits without commitment. The conversation shifted something in me. Every time we were intimate after that, I'd think about how vulnerable I was, giving so much to someone who wouldn't call me his. It felt unfair, like I was pouring myself into a relationship without security. So, I made a choice that felt right at the time. I'd step back from physical intimacy until he was ready to commit. At our next date, a hike where the trail's pine scent mixed with our easy banter, I explained, being intimate without commitment is making me uncomfortable. I need to protect myself until we're exclusive. I expected understanding, maybe respect for my boundaries, thinking it might push him to commit. Instead, Trevor got quiet, his expression hurt, not reassured. Are we just friends now? He asked, voice tight. I clarified we could still date, just without the physical part, but he looked confused, frustrated. It feels like you're using this to force a label, he said, and that makes me uneasy. I insisted it was about my emotional well-being. But his reaction, distant, guarded, hinted I'd miscalculated, setting a stage where our connection began to fray, the warmth of our rhythm cooling under the weight of my ultimatum. My additions deepened the tension. Jess's warning at a wine night, "Don't push too hard," lingered as I spoke, her glass clinking with doubt. Trevor's playlist from a concert, still on my phone, played bittersweetly as I lay awake, questioning my move. A coworker's story of losing a guy by rushing, shared in the office's fluorescent glow, echoed my fears. During the hike, a couple passing us hand in hand amplified my longing for clarity, their ease a contrast to our strain. These threads wove a growing unease as my demand for a label risked everything, pushing Trevor away and setting the stage for a devastating unraveling I hadn't foreseen. The conversation where I pushed Trevor for a commitment label felt like a gamble that went terribly wrong. the warmth of our connection chilling, as my ultimatum to withhold intimacy until he called me his girlfriend hung between us. I was 31, a client services manager in Chicago, my days filled with client calls and the hum of office air conditioners. My nights once aglow with Trevor's thoughtful dates, concerts, hikes, cozy dinners, now shadowed by his hurt reaction. That night at his apartment, with the scent of wine and candlelight fading into tension, I'd hoped my boundary would show him my worth, maybe even spur him to commit. Instead, his quiet frustration, "It feels like you're forcing a label," marked a shift, the easy rhythm we'd built over 2 months fraying like a worn thread. The days that followed saw him pulling away, and my panic grew as our once vibrant connection dimmed. The city's pulse outside my window, a stark contrast to the silence creeping into our texts, setting the stage for a devastating unraveling I hadn't anticipated. Trevor's response on that hike, where pine needles crunched underfoot and the air carried a crisp chill, lingered like a bruise. I'd explained my need to step back from intimacy to protect my emotional well-being, expecting respect, maybe even admiration for my resolve. Instead, he'd looked confused, hurt, saying, "Are we just friends now?" I clarified we could still date, keep our connection, just without the physical part until we were exclusive. But his expression, tight jaw, averted eyes, told me he saw it as manipulation, not self-care. "I understand," he said, voice flat, "but this feels like you're using our connection to pressure me." I insisted it was about needing security, not forcing him, but the trail's quiet beauty felt heavy. Our usual banter replaced by a strained silence as we walked back to his car, the engine's hum underscoring the growing distance. The next few days were a slow bleed. Our texts, once daily bursts of warmth lighting up my phone in the office break room, became short, sporadic. He'd reply hours later, no longer starting with "good morning" or playful emojis, just curt responses like "busy today, maybe tomorrow." I'd stare at my screen, the coffee machine's hiss in the background, heart sinking as I sensed him slipping away. Plans dwindled. He stopped suggesting concerts or dinners, only agreeing to last-minute coffee meetups. The cafe's espresso scent, no longer cozy but cold. When we did meet, the ease was gone. At a downtown bistro, the clink of glasses jarring, he'd sit across from me, arms crossed, his laugh forced, our inside jokes falling flat. I'd try to spark our old rhythm, mentioning a band we'd loved, but he'd nod politely, eyes distant, like he was already somewhere else. Panic set in. I'd lie awake in my apartment, the city's traffic humming outside, replaying our hike, wondering if I'd pushed too hard. Jessa, over wine at her place, had warned, "Don't rush him," her glass clinking as she urged patience, but I'd felt justified. 2 months of girlfriend-level effort deserved a title. I'd given him my time, emotions, body, yet he wouldn't claim me, making me feel like a fling despite our closeness. I texted him after a few days, "Can we talk about us?" hoping to bridge the gap, but his reply, "Need some space." Cut like a knife. I tried calling during lunch, the office's fluorescent lights harsh on my nerves, but he didn't answer, leaving me with a voicemail that echoed my growing desperation. By our 12th date, a strained coffee meetup where the table felt like a barrier, I tried again. Voice soft, "I didn't mean to pressure you. I just need to know where we stand." He sighed, stirring his coffee, the spoon clinking. "I like you, Sabrina, but this boundary feels like an ultimatum. I'm not ready for that." His words stung, implying I was forcing a commitment he didn't want, not with me. I argued we'd been acting like a couple, dates, intimacy, plans, but he shook his head. "I need time to figure out what I want." The cafe's hum faded as I realized our rhythm was breaking, his withdrawal a sign I was losing him. The final blow came after our 13th date, a lackluster dinner, where the restaurant's candlelight couldn't mask the tension. I texted about weekend plans, hoping to rekindle something, but found user not found on his profiles. He'd blocked me everywhere. No warning, no goodbye. I sat on my couch, the city's lights blurring through tears, the shock hitting like a physical blow. How had we gone from planning hikes to complete silence? I felt discarded, my vulnerability, given freely in those intimate nights, now a wound. I'd been honest about my needs, yet he'd cut me off, choosing erasure over dialogue, leaving me to grapple with the wreckage of a connection I'd thought was forever. My additions deepened the despair. Jessa's text post-date, "He'll come around," felt hollow as I stared at my blocked screen, the city's hum mocking me. A coworker's story of a similar rejection, shared in the break room, mirrored my pain, her pity stinging. Trevor's playlist, still on my phone, played bittersweetly, each song a reminder of lost nights. A journal entry I wrote, detailing our concert dates, became a tear-stained relic of hope. These threads amplified my panic, as Trevor's silence and the finality of his block pushed me toward a painful reckoning with the cost of my ultimatum, setting the stage for a heartbreak that would linger long after. The shock of Trevor blocking me after our 13th date hit like a punch to the gut, leaving me reeling in my Chicago apartment, the city's hum outside my window a cruel reminder of the connection that had vanished overnight. I was 31, a client services manager whose days were filled with client calls and the drone of office air conditioners, but whose nights, once warmed by Trevor's thoughtful dates, concerts, hikes, cozy dinners, now echoed with the silence of his absence. My plan to withhold intimacy until he called me his girlfriend, meant to secure our future, had backfired spectacularly. His sudden rejection, a cold dismissal of 2 months of shared laughter, intimacy, and plans. I'd poured my heart into our rhythm, movie nights curled on his couch, the scent of popcorn mingling with his cologne, only to be erased without a word, left to pick up the pieces of a dream I'd thought was ours. The days that followed were a haze of hurt and confusion, as I grappled with the why of his choice and the sting of being discarded, setting the stage for a deeper unraveling that would haunt me. Sitting on my couch that night, the city's lights blurring through tears, I stared at user not found messages on my phone, each one a confirmation of Trevor's deliberate cut. I'd texted about weekend plans, hoping to rekindle our spark, but his block on every platform, texts, social media calls, was a wall I couldn't breach. The shock was visceral, like the air had been sucked from the room, leaving only the hum of my fridge and my racing thoughts. How had we gone from planning hikes to this? Our last date, a strained dinner at a bistro where candlelight couldn't mask the tension, replayed in my mind. The clink of glasses, his forced smile, my plea to talk about us, met with his "I need time." I'd thought he'd cool off, not vanish, his silence louder than any argument we'd had. I tried reaching out, desperate to understand. A voicemail left during a sleepless night, the city's traffic humming outside, begged, "Trevor, just talk to me." No response. I called Jessa, my voice breaking over wine at her place, the glass clinking as I spilled everything. "He's overreacting," I said, but her "maybe you pushed too hard" stung, echoing my growing doubt. I felt humiliated, discarded like trash by someone who'd seemed to care just days before. For 2 months, I'd given him everything. Time, intimacy, emotional energy, acting like a girlfriend without the title, only to be punished for asking for commitment. The unfairness burned. I'd been honest about my needs, trying to communicate maturely, yet he'd chosen to ghost me, leaving me to question my worth. Days turned to weeks, each one heavier with regret. Work suffered, client meetings blurred under the office's fluorescent lights, my boss noting my distraction with a frown, her office smelling of stale coffee. I'd replay our final talks, dissecting my ultimatum to withhold intimacy. Had I been too demanding? Friends like Jessa grew tired of my rants, her move on Sabrina over coffee feeling dismissive as I clung to the pain. Dating others was futile. Guys at bars, their beer-soaked chatter grating, paled against Trevor's thoughtful questions. I'd compare their laughs to his, their stories to our concert nights, finding them lacking, my heart stuck in a loop of what-ifs. Every date ended with me back in my apartment, the creak of the floorboards amplifying my loneliness, his playlist still on my phone, a bittersweet reminder of what I'd lost. I obsessed over what went wrong, lying awake as the city hummed, wondering if I'd misread his signals, his plans for hikes, his we in holiday talks. Had he been dating others all along? The thought twisted my gut, imagining him with someone else while I'd poured myself into us. Jessa suggested therapy, but I resisted, not ready to face my role, insisting Trevor's block was his flaw, not mine. Yet the hurt lingered, each unanswered text a reminder of being deemed unworthy. I'd scroll through old messages, his "can't wait to see you" now a taunt, my apartment's dim light casting shadows as I typed unsent messages, pleading for closure he'd never give. My additions deepened the devastation. A co-worker's story of a similar ghosting, shared in the break room's coffee-scented haze, mirrored my pain, her pity stinging. Jessa's apartment, where we'd once laughed about Trevor's charm, now felt like confessional, her silence heavy as I vented. A forgotten ticket stub from our first concert, found in my purse, brought tears, its crumpled edges a relic of lost nights. Mom's call, urging me to let it go, over the phone's crackle, echoed my isolation. These threads wove a tapestry of loss, amplifying the shock of Trevor's block and the emotional fallout that followed, pushing me toward a painful reckoning with the cost of my strategy and the void it left in my life. The shock of Trevor's block after our 13th date was a wound that refused to heal, festering as I stumbled through my life at 31, a client services manager in Chicago, where the hum of office air conditioners